What if I told you that your greatest difficulties could become your greatest allies? This is the true story of a donkey who taught us the most powerful secret about turning every obstacle into a step towards freedom. It was a quiet morning on a small farmer's property where the shy sun was beginning to warm green fields, stretching around a simple wooden house, creating that serene atmosphere only the countryside can offer. The birdsong echoed softly in the distance, while the wind swayed the leaves of the trees, creating a natural melody that accompanied the routine of that hard-working farmer. In this peaceful setting lived a special character, not just an ordinary working animal, but a donkey carrying within it a wisdom it did not even know it possessed. With brown fur faded by age and some white strands in the sun-exposed parts, its large and attentive ears expressed a curious and deeply sensitive nature. Its dark, deep eyes reflected a fascinating mixture of ancestral wisdom and accumulated weariness, as if time had engraved lessons on it that were yet to be revealed. It was an animal of serene and calm temperament, always performing its work without protest, but inside it carried an unquestionable resilience that even it did not fully know. Despite its advanced age, there was a special lightness in its walk, as if its spirit still had much to offer and was not at all willing to give in to the limitations that time tried to impose. In the stable, it was preparing for another day of work alongside its owner, ready to carry sacks of grain and transport wood, not imagining that this would be the day that would change everything forever. But on that apparently ordinary day, something completely unexpected broke the peaceful routine they had known for so long. While the farmer was inside the house organizing his daily affairs, a strange and disturbing sound echoed across the property. It was the unmistakable noise of something heavy falling, immediately followed by an anguished neigh that cut through the morning air like a sharp blade. The farmer felt his heart race instantly, ran to the window with growing anxiety taking hold of his chest, looked around desperately, trying to understand what was happening, until he finally discovered the terrible reality that presented itself before his eyes. His faithful companion had fallen into the old stone well at the back of the property. The well had been dry for many years, without a single drop of water, but it was too deep for the animal to get out on its own. Running there with his face completely overflowing with genuine concern, the farmer saw the donkey with eyes wide with pure terror, desperately trying to balance itself on the slippery and treacherous walls, its hooves beating insistently against the stones while it neighed with a desperation that touched the soul of anyone who heard it, asking for help in a way that transcended any barrier between species. The anguish was palpable in the air. The well was too deep, and even with his hands calloused by years of heavy work in the field, the farmer knew he didn't have enough physical strength to pull the animal out of that stone trap that seemed to have become an impossible prison to escape. The donkey continued crying with a sound that cut the heart of anyone who heard it, as if it instinctively knew it was in an apparent dead end, trapped in a situation that seemed to have no possible solution. With each minute that passed slowly, the farmer's frustration and despair increased exponentially, creating a weight in his chest that seemed unbearable. He looked to the infinite sky, seeking divine answers, feeling the wind that now blew stronger, as if nature itself was pressing for an urgent decision that needed to be made. The farmer faced the crushing weight of a choice that no human being should have to make, with his heart completely tightened by pain and the pressure of circumstances. He knew the donkey was aging rapidly. Its best working days were already behind it, and that old and abandoned well needed to be filled in any way. There is no other viable solution, he thought to himself, fighting against his own conscience, feeling each word like a dagger in his sensitive soul. With a sigh so heavy it seemed to carry the weight of the world, he called the neighbors who arrived carrying shovels, hesitant and clearly uncomfortable, but ended up agreeing with the difficult decision that needed to be made. The donkey is old. Its working days have come to an end. The well has been dry for years and needs to be filled once and for all, he explained with immense difficulty, feeling each word leave his mouth as if it were molten lead, carrying the weight of a decision he knew would haunt him forever. Wait a moment. If you're feeling that this story is touching your heart as much as it's touching mine, leave a like on this video right now. And if you want to receive more transformative stories like this every week, stories that will inspire you in your most difficult moments and remind you of your own inner strength, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell, because I guarantee you never know when you'll need to remember that your obstacles can become your best allies. Now, let's discover what happened to our friend at the bottom of the well. The neighbors reluctantly agreed, though with visible fear stamped on their faces. Each one picked up a shovel with trembling hands and began to throw dirt into the bottom of the well, feeling like part of something none of them really wanted to do. Initially, the donkey became completely motionless, like a stone statue, its neigh lower and melancholic, as if it were slowly surrendering to the cruel fate that seemed to have been traced for it. The farmer positioned himself at a distance, observing with eyes that filled with unshed tears, seeing the animal apparently surrender to each shovel of dirt that fell on its back, passively accepting everything that was happening to it without offering any resistance. The sadness was completely visible on the farmer's weathered face, but he felt imprisoned by his own decision, as if there were absolutely no alternative to that desperate situation that had settled like a storm in their lives. With each shovel of dirt that fell, the farmer's heart broke a little more, but he continued watching, trapped in his decision as the donkey itself was trapped in the well, both apparently without exit from that nightmare that seemed to have no end. It was as if time had stopped at that painful moment, freezing a scene that none of those present would ever be able to forget for the rest of their lives, an image that would be engraved forever in their memories as a symbol of difficult decisions and unexpected consequences that life sometimes forces us to face. But then something absolutely surprising happened that completely changed the course of that entire tragic story that seemed to have only one possible ending. After some shovels of dirt had fallen on its tired back, the donkey began to react in a completely unexpected and revolutionary way. It no longer remained motionless like a defenseless victim, waiting for the inevitable. With a determined movement that surprised everyone present, the animal vigorously shook its entire body, removing the dirt from its back with an energy that no one knew it still possessed and, with visible but impressive effort, took a firm step upward, stepping with determination on the dirt that had fallen on it. The farmer, who until then had been observing from a distance with eyes welled up with sadness, immediately stopped and fixed all his attention on that incredible spectacle unfolding before his eyes. The donkey was not passively surrendering to fate, it was actively adapting to the situation, transforming each obstacle into opportunity in a way that defied all human logic. With each new shovel of dirt the neighbors threw, it shook even faster and with more determination, raising its body with difficulty but with an unshakable determination not to be imprisoned there forever. The farmer slowly approached, his eyes widening with pure surprise and growing admiration, completely incredulous at what he was witnessing. It was simply impossible to believe. With each shovel of dirt that fell on it, the donkey made firm and completely decided movements, as if it were literally building its own stairway to freedom, brick by brick, step by step. It wasn't sinking as everyone expected. On the contrary, it was gradually rising, transforming each difficulty imposed on it into a solid step for its own salvation. The neighbors completely stopped working, leaving their shovels aside and looking at the donkey with an indescribable mixture of absolute incredulity and profound admiration that grew with each second. How could it be possible that an animal apparently without strength and already elderly could react in such an extraordinary and inspiring way? They, who moments before were completely convinced that the donkey had no more use in life, began to gradually perceive that it was teaching something much more important and profound than any lesson they could have learned from books or through words. With each determined and courageous step, the donkey was magically transforming the dirt that fell on it into solid support, into renewed strength and pure fuel to continue its heroic fight for freedom. As the minutes passed that seemed like hours, it kept getting closer and closer to the edge of the well, slowly approaching, but with absolute certainty that it was almost reaching its final objective. The farmer, with his heart beating strongly in his chest like a war drum, witnessed the historic moment when the donkey took the last decisive step of its journey. In a final effort that seemed to concentrate all the energy of the universe, it triumphantly passed over the edge of the well and came out completely free from that stone prison that had become its personal battlefield. It was finally free against all odds and expectations. The donkey began to trot happily through the field, completely covered in dirt, but overflowing with life and renewed energy, as if it had been reborn from the ashes of its own despair, demonstrating to the entire world that true strength always comes from within and can never be completely destroyed by external circumstances. The farmer was completely speechless, contemplating the animal with an indescribable mixture of genuine astonishment and profound revelation that would change his life forever. All of that seemed like a true divine miracle, but at the same time, he understood something much greater and infinitely more significant than any supernatural phenomenon. He had completely underestimated the donkey, erroneously thinking that the animal would not be capable of saving itself alone, that life had definitively come to an end for it, that there was no more hope or possibility of reversal. But what the donkey showed him with its heroic action was absolutely revolutionary and transformative. Even in the most desperate and apparently impossible situations, there is always a way to continue. There is always a hidden path waiting to be discovered by those who have enough courage to search. With each difficulty we face in life, with each problem that seems insurmountable, we can consciously choose to take a step forward. We can choose to react constructively and positively instead of simply passively surrendering to what seems to be inevitable. Life sometimes throws heavy dirt on our backs without any warning or preparation. When we feel completely crushed by the weight of circumstances, without apparent exit for our problems, it is extremely easy to think that there is no more hope remaining in our future. But the most powerful secret to get out of life's deep well is not in giving up cowardly or uselessly lamenting about our situation, but in intelligently and creatively using what is given to us, even when it seems to be just a heavy and unnecessary burden, to always take one more courageous step toward our personal freedom. It doesn't matter absolutely anything the size of the metaphorical well in which you find yourself imprisoned at this moment, nor the crushing weight of the dirt that seems to be constantly falling on your tired shoulders. What really matters and makes all the difference in the world is never completely giving up on your dreams, always firmly believing that there is a viable exit for any situation, always lovingly remembering that our true inner strength is located in our inexhaustible capacity to keep walking, step by step, intelligently transforming each apparent obstacle into a real opportunity for personal growth and spiritual development. Now, I want to know from you, what is the well of your life at this moment? What difficult situation are you facing that could be transformed into steps for your freedom? Tell us in the comments. Sometimes sharing our story is the first step to getting out of the well. And if this fable made you reflect on your own journey, leave that cheeky like, subscribe to the channel for more motivational stories, and send this video to that person you know needs to hear this message today. Because sometimes a simple story can completely change someone's perspective. Remember, no matter the size of your well, you have the strength to get out of it. Until the next story.